Well, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 328. For those who are keeping track, why wouldn't you be keeping track? Of course you are. Glad that you're back. If you've been with me for a while, if you're just starting out, well, welcome. Raging Verbalist is when I come up and pick a topic that enrages me or gets me going. Typically don't dive too much into politics, but talk about business, talk about life, talk about a variety of things every Friday. YouTube and also Facebook on my Facebook group, Position to Win, which is, of course, my book, shameless plug, my book, Position to Win. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it, Position to Win, and available. And we'll be talking more about that in a little bit. Okay, well, welcome. Let's talk about, the title of today's is Will Oil Hit $250 a barrel? And I'm going to tell you right now that that's what people are talking about. Now, several years ago, I predicted that oil would hit $100 a barrel. And frankly, that prediction, because again, if you have a prediction that's like forever, then it doesn't really, it's not a prediction. It's just kind of a, I'm guessing a trend or direction. And I said it would hit $100 a barrel. It didn't. I was wrong about that one. It didn't happen the way I thought it would happen. I was, kind of looking and reading the tea leaves. By the way, if I really knew what I tell you, of course, well, maybe I would. It's the way I am. But, anyway, but now we sit at $100, for both indices for the big ones, if you will, West Texas crude and Brent, and they're both over $100 a barrel as we're recording this, as we're doing this, and we're putting it out there. Now we sit at $100 plus, a little plus, because of the Strait of Hormuz being effectively closed. There's a blockade, on one side and both sides. So there's a U.S. naval blockade, which is, of course, stopping that oil from making it out. They're trying to figure out how many mines there are in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranians had over like 20 something mine laying boats. Yeah, okay, I got it. They're not nice guys. Now, the reason why we're at where we're at is that, a percentage of the market, and I've seen lots of different numbers, 10%, 20%. I don't think it's 20%, but there's some disruption. And this is a very important reality check, which is never forget that the law of supply and demand is always in effect. People talk about affordability. They're talking about affordability because of supply and demand. You have excess supply, you have and demand remains the same, you'll see prices go down and vice versa. Now, most often than not, we hit a comfort zone and then it just kind of fades into the background. We don't really think too much about it. We're like, oh, okay, I guess we're all right. I'm not too worried. No, okay, it's taking place. Now, if it does hit 250, there's going to be some serious rethinking and rejiggering. Now we are living in much more of a turbulent hyper speed time. So volatility is through the roof. And the question is, will it go to $250 a barrel? It could if disruption continues. It can go there. Now, what that's going to do is alter our energy use, and maybe that's something that some would applaud. It's going to change how we think about energy. I mean, I'm sitting here right now with 40 solar panels on my roof, and I've got to figure out a way to continue to contain more of those little electrons because I'm getting screwed by not getting paid properly from the grid. And you're going to see some of that happen. By the way, it doesn't take a lot of people changing their habits for oil or any energy pricing, because let's just think of it as energy. Now, here's a little aside. Humans have been chasing cheaper calories. Calories like what you eat and what you burn. A calorie is really a unit of energy. So we've been chasing cheaper calories since we, got out of the tree and walked around, and we were in the tree because we were afraid of an animal or something. We've been chasing cheaper calories and cheaper energy, and that's exactly where energy costs have gone. And if you don't think that, well, we have, energy is less expensive per BTU than it has probably ever been in history, in a way, because we have so many different ways that we can produce energy. That's just the reality of life. So we're going to see a lot of changes if it hits $250 a barrel. My belief is that if it does, that it will have enough of an effect to change behavior, it could change the supply chain demand model. And if that happens, then you may see oil plummet. We saw this happen in the late 70s, early 90s. Late 70s, we had an oil shock. By the middle of the 80s, it had crashed and burned, went down 75%. Probably wouldn't happen that same way. But yeah, it could change. Also, this week, to add insult to injury, if you will, is that United Arab Emirates, and the Emirates produce lots of oil, is that they have decided to leave the OPEC cartel. Now you may say, well, what is that effect going to have on us? Well, all of these countries in Africa that are pumping oil will have a hard time because their costs are higher than the Emirates. Again, supply and demand, that will happen. Now, frankly, today's prices are changing more rapidly than before, and that leads me to believe that volatility is going to continue unabated. Now, there's something really important, is that if you believe, as some people really do, if you believe that it's going to hit $250 a barrel, I just asked somebody yesterday who has a quite substantial investment portfolio. I said, well, if it's going to hit 250, what are you going to do? His statement was he's going to sit on the sidelines because he doesn't want to get involved in this thing. My question is, are you going to watch? Are you going to wait? Or are you going to bet? And those are your only three choices. Now, I have bets on oil, and they have been paying off. They've been doing well for me. And those, I think, will continue. I would not recommend anything to you right now because that's not the business I'm in. But you got to always ask yourself, maybe write it out on 3x5 cards. Watch, wait, or bet. Which one are you going to do? Because the question is profit or loss? You decide. Is there an opportunity, or is it just a calamity and all that? Most will just sit on the sidelines watching it, waiting it, and never making an extra dime out of it. However, there is opportunity in price volatility. Now, if you're concerned about how you're going to fit into this world and how are things going to go, I would suggest that, well, if you're watching and waiting, or even if you're profiting, is go check out my book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to Win. You go get it from positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. You can go on there and ask me to do a little autography, and I will be happy to do that. And also, you can get it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. You can go ask for it, and you can get a physical copy. If you want to get digital, if you're in a electronic age like I am, go get Kindle, Nook, or Apple iBooks. Now, I'll leave you with this final thought. Oil is going to be at the heart of our civilization, no matter what the Greens will tell you, for the next 20, 50, probably 100 years. And the reason why it's going to be there is that we make so many things out of it. Now, our dependency on oil will change and will be shaped by the supply and demand curve. And what will happen is that we will find alternatives. We will continue to develop things. Now, I am not a believer that we should force things, because if those people who are in charge of that could actually pick winners and losers, then we should give them money, go out and pick winners and losers and pay off the deficit and the national debt with that, but they're not good at it. So my suggestion for you is develop your own strategy, make sure that you're well aware of what's going on, and never just sit there and wonder, but make sure that you make an informed decision. And with that, I'm John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. This has been the Raging Verbalist number 328. Have a great one, and hopefully all your profits will be good and solid. Take care.